There is no difference between Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. And there is no difference between the Muslim Brotherhood and what's so-called moderate Islam, or the middle way of Islam. This is the vision of Hassan al-Banna and Sayyid Qutb, who hated America, the West, and all the Western values, believing in Islamic superiority and presenting Islam as the solution for humanity.
This is East to West. I'm your host, Sarah Martinez Amir, and today's episode is both urgent and essential. October 7th was more than an unprecedented act of terror. It was the exposure of a brutal jihadi ideology, one that glorifies death, dehumanizes civilians, and turns hostages into weapons. Well, to understand it, we have to go beyond the headlines into the heart of Hamas. And no one can take us there like my guest today. Mosab Hassan Yousef, the son of one of the terror group's founding leaders, Mosab was raised to believe that martyrdom was sacred, that jihad was justice, and that Israel must be destroyed. But what makes him different is not where he came from, but it's what he chose to do. After years inside Hamas's inner circle, he saw the truth behind the ideology, the corruption, the cruelty, the systematic dehumanization of Palestinians themselves. He made the life-changing decision to risk his life and speak the truth. Today, he's one of the most important voices speaking out against the movement and the dangers of its ideology. In this conversation, Mosab exposes the theology, the indoctrination, and the strategic cruelty that drives this movement and warns what the world must know. This isn't just a regional crisis, it's a global threat. Before we get into October 7th, take us back to October 6th and help us get into the mind of the Hamas leadership and the terror group's ideology.
Hamas is a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is the biggest Islamic movement, organization in the world, with more than 100 million active members, I think even more today. The question is why the Muslim Brotherhood did not declare just war against Israel within the what's so-called Palestinian territories. Because their tactic is not to have full confrontation with Israel, because this could lead to their annihilation. So their tactic has been to create branches in Europe, branches in Jordan, in the United States. When one branch becomes a terrorist organization or designated a terrorist organization, they branch a new one. They have many different names, they have many different faces, and it's the same ideology. There is no difference between Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. And there is no difference between the Muslim Brotherhood and what's so-called moderate Islam, or the middle way of Islam. This is the vision of Hassan al-Banna and Sayyid Qutb, who hated America, the West, and all the Western values. Believing in Islamic superiority and presenting Islam as the solution for humanity. So, as the Muslim Brotherhood was fighting on multiple fronts in Afghanistan and Lebanon and other locations, inciting against corrupt Arab regimes, inciting against the United States, against Israel, establishing Hamas was part of that. And it came right after the Afghanistan war, where modern jihad was actually born. Abdullah Azzam, Osama bin Laden, his disciple, and later on Al-Qaeda, and all the branches that came out of jihadi ideologies. It all came from the Muslim Brotherhood. So Hamas was part of that. Why did they call it Hamas? Hamas literally means enthusiasm. And they wanted to separate the activities of Hamas from the activities of the Muslim Brotherhood. In case if Israel launch a war, the war would be only against Hamas, not against the infrastructure of the flagship movement. This has been very clever because actually it worked for them. So what the Muslim Brotherhood did, separate dawah, separate education, charity from military and political activities. But it did not also stop there because Hamas also had divisions and subdivisions. So also Hamas had more security precautions that they separated the political wing from the military wing, from the security wing, from the dawah wing. But it's the same ideology as the Muslim Brotherhood. The ultimate goal has been an Islamic Khilafah, not a Palestine, not only on the rubble of the State of Israel, but also on the rubble of the Western civilization towards a global state.
So when we're hearing these so-called pro-Palestinian protesters chant on the streets of Toronto, New York, London, Sydney, globalize the Intifada, what does that mean for you?
Intifada is chaos. This is what Intifada. They were, prior to the first Palestinian Intifada, things were okay. We were good. Nobody was dying. Nobody was shooting at anybody. Jewish families used to come to our family, to our village. We would serve them our special dishes. We worked together. We partnered on projects. And there was harmony to a certain degree, regardless of the differences between the two people. And it was beautiful. But when the first Intifada started, and in the first few weeks, people were declaring the Intifada, things start changing to the worse. It became throwing stones, strikes, no education, no economy. They shut down economy. They shut down schools. Many masked men, only the devil knew who they were. Anybody just put on a mask and shut down the whole city, or raped women, or killed their rivals, or even when they had a dispute based on tribalism, people wear masks and they became freedom fighters, and they went and killed the others and accused them of being collaborators with Israel. And soon later it became shooting, mass shooting. A couple of years later it became suicide bombing attacks. And the region would never be the same. This is the Intifada that I know. It starts like a romantic chant, from the rivers to the sea, and the freedom fighting and the resistance against occupation and all these fancy slogans that they carry around, just like donkeys carrying holy scriptures over their backs. It does not make them more intelligent. And as someone who experienced and witnessed the bloodshed, I tell them, you are starting now, you think it's fun, but later on you are going to pay the price, because the bloodshed is inevitable. And they seem not to care. So globalizing the Intifada, meaning that we are going to globalize the chaos. When they say this, I don't care what they mean when they say it. Whether they mean anything or something could be even positive, I don't care, because the certain outcome would be destruction and violence and chaos.
Not just of Israel, but of the West as well.
Yeah, and they say globalize it. They want it to become universal. They want it to go everywhere, and we're chaos, because in chaos, they thrive. When there is order, there is no need for them. And when there is order, means that a person must fight the good fight and build and create, and it's not an easy process. The destruction process is much easier for many people, hence they choose chaos. Now, so many people are desperate for change. And I said this from the beginning. I totally understand it. Many people in the West are in debt. Many people don't see light towards the end of this tunnel. Many people living in darkness. And I'm telling them that the way of evolution is better than the way of revolution. The way of evolution is graceful. We learn, we grow, and we adjust, we align, we correct ourselves, we learn from our mistakes. There is lots of grace, there is lots of tolerance, there is lots of forgiveness. Then we would be building something magnificent. But when we choose revolution, it means that we want a quick fix now.
Without knowing the consequences of tomorrow.
Without knowing that they are going to pay the bills in blood.
Knowing what you know about Hamas, take me back to October 7th, what it was like for you personally. Were you surprised of Hamas's brutality towards civilians, raping, killing, dismembering men, women, elderly, children, kidnapping over 200 hostages to Gaza?
Well, this is the worst version of Hamas. And this is another thing for someone as an insider who have been witnessing the evolution of Hamas. That at the beginning, start with the idea of freedom fighting. Let's helping our people, freeing our people. But through experience, they don't care for the people. And they only made things worse. So it starts with fancy ideals. But the outcome of it is completely different. Like somebody like my father, in many occasions, he expressed his incapability to kill or to harm any being. Once there was an insect on the floor, and he wouldn't even step on it. But the irony is the leader of a movement that's sending suicide bombers to blow up so many people. So his self-righteousness and his believing that he's doing the right thing, he did not see the new generation of Hamas that came out on October 7. When I saw the footage of October 7 for the first time, especially the classified material at that time that was not revealed to public, I was shocked of how far Hamas made it. Like remembering the original founders of Hamas, what was their ideas and how amazing, how I was fascinated by their ideas. And here we are after 36 years or 37 years. The outcome is completely different than what they planned. Because here we are. They failed to destroy Israel. They only succeeded in destroying Gaza and making the lives of millions of Arabs and Jews intolerable. So this is my first-hand observation of the situation. And I wondered many times after I watched the massacre, what if my father actually sat down and watched it? Would he even recognize that this is the generation that he created? Are they under his control as the old guard? Would they even listen to him? If he said, no, October 7 is not a good idea, knowing the outcome or even expecting the outcome that would be disastrous. If he told Sinwar, this is not a good idea, would Sinwar even listen to him as the new generation of hooks? And what about the ones who just were raging and raving on killing civilians on October 7? Celebrating like, they were just at a big party, enjoying, inflicting destruction and killing on defenseless civilians. What kind of achievement is this? And of course, as someone who served in the counterterrorism for a long time, and I know the mentality of the Mossad and of the Shin Bet, of even other intelligence services, that this is not going to go down unpunished. So I was speaking from personal experience, the things that the intelligence services wouldn't even tell the public what they are going to do. But I knew what they are going to do. And I knew that it's going to be a tsunami. October 7 was the earthquake. And October 8th was that tsunami that came to destroy everything in its way. So I wondered many times how my father would view that. Would he still view it as success? Nobody's listening to him. All their ideals from the beginning and what's so-called Islamic morality and compassion towards the people and freeing the people. How did it end? Where are we now? How did that work for Hamas and for all those who supported Hamas? So for me, it was just the end of Hamas. October 7 was the end of Hamas. Now comes the surprise that
Hamas was dead,
and now
Gaza.
It's the birth of a global movement, much more dangerous than Hamas, and much more false than Hamas. Like, at least you would say Hamas leaders were in prison. They had personal reason to take revenge on Israel. They had personal reason in their delusions, in their deception, to inflict pain on Israel. Okay, so let's say, even if I had to say that this is understandable, what's the reason of all the Westerners? What's the reason of all the kids on colleges? And
how do you explain that? And I'm curious to hear from you. Was Hamas conscious that it would receive the backing that it has received from the West, or did that also come as a surprise to them?
No, Hamas was totally aware of this, but they didn't know that Israel would fight all the way to the end. They thought Israel would respond strongly. Civilian casualty would be inevitable, and that's based on Hamas experience in the previous wars, 2014, 2019, 2008, 2021. And they saw how much sympathy, global sympathy, they gained through sacrificing and weaponizing civilians. So it's not that Hamas was naive. This has been their most dangerous weapon, civilians.
And that is, for viewers who might not necessarily understand to what you're alluding to, that is Hamas's conscious, deliberate use of Gazan civilians in Gaza as human shields on the battlefield.
Of course. This is, to Hamas, this is a strategy. But this is where Hamas got it wrong. Hamas thought, and as someone who knows how they think, how they process, they thought Israel halfway cannot keep going all the way, because they cannot basically go into a war where civilians continue to die, expecting that the global pressure is going to apply and Israel will have to submit and accept surrender. So they did two major war crimes, taking their own people as human shields and taking the hostages on the top of October 7 massacre. These are very powerful cards against democracy. Forget about Israel as a nation that values life, and every Jewish life is very important, and never leave anyone behind, right? All these principles. Israel in the past paid whatever it took to bring its soldiers back, to bring its citizens back from captivity. So Hamas knows now, if we have hundreds of hostages,
it's the best.
The price is going to be... Yes, so this is where they miscalculated, thinking that the hostage card is going to break Israel, divide the country, lead to the collapse of the government, apply tremendous amount of global pressure from the Islamic world, from the Western world, from humanitarian organizations, from the United Nations. And Hamas did not have much to lose. So they thought the moment Israel is defeated, automatically Hamas would be victorious in a scenario where Hamas would get legitimacy among their own people, that their violence actually paid off, and their cause got global legitimacy. On the other hand, Israel got delegitimized. So Hamas was aware of that, but they did not think that Israel would hold it together without collapsing, without surrender, without submitting to the global pressure and go as far as where we are right now.
Before we get into the legitimacy that Hamas has gained or perhaps not gained from October 7th, I'm curious to hear from you what is the tactics that Hamas has used to manipulate the West into blaming Israel, essentially kidnapping the narrative of the war. But more technically speaking, in order to be able to answer that question, I would like for you to explain to our viewers how Hamas controls everything in Gaza, not just militarily, but also socially, indoctrinating that population and forcing it out of fear to act in its favor.
Well, Hamas, I'm afraid to say, it's the only legitimate Palestinian authority that is out there. The Palestinian Authority does not have any legitimacy because they are not the ones who have been elected. Hamas won the elections. Landslide victory for Hamas, where the vast majority of Palestinians voted for the organization. And in fact, the vast majority of Palestinians continue to support Hamas and their violence. And many people now start to believe that violence actually can lead to recognition, to sympathy, to financial support, to statehood. And here come Western countries who
calling for the recognition of the Palestinian states,
which basically they are validating Hamas violence, whether if they mean it or not. Because not
rewarding terrorism, essentially.
Like, for example, Macron's decision to recognize a Palestinian state is not about Palestine. It's about punishing Israel. It's about challenging the United States' long-standing position as a superpower. So we can go in so many directions of how this trigger Palestine. Very, very dangerous trigger. And the war Hamas started, we really don't know how it's going to end. And I said from the beginning, could lead to the destruction of Gaza, and it did. And it did. And now I'm actually worried that this is going to even spread much farther than the borders of Gaza.
Are you worried of a more wider regional war?
It's already, all this hateful indoctrination is not going in void, demonizing the Jewish minority, who happen to be a very successful minority around the world, where it cannot be, it's the attempt to replace it by the means of violence and intimidation will create a very dangerous void in all systems. And it looks like so many people now believe that actually Israel is the source of evil in this world. And they are coming to the same conclusions as the Nazis. But when the Nazi ideology spread, what was the outcome of it? It took the Nazis about 5 years to infiltrate the church through Christianity, to demonize the Jewish people eventually, which led to the Holocaust and the death of so many people, and eventually World War II. So we are in a very similar scenario. Yes, the reality is different, but who knows how this is going to end? And when France, the UK, China, Russia, the United States, all the superpowers of the world are just playing the Palestinian game, playing the proxies, like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like Iran, like the Palestinian Authority, to delegitimize Israel and dehumanize the Jewish people, knowing how sensitive it is. Because the Jewish people are not just ordinary people. Everybody knows this. Every government knows this. Every politician knows that. And it's not their fault to be successful, to be wealthy, and to have powerful drive towards life, So all intelligence services around the world know that this is the most sensitive nerve. If you press it, it could lead to change the world order. And this is what they want. They want the collapse of the United States as the greatest ally of Israel. Russia and China are determined to change the world order, and they went into a very ugly partnership with Islamists and jihadists to achieve their goal. God forbids if the United States end up divided and, let's say, falling from its position as the leading power, we will be left with Islamists and communists to actually decide our destiny. And that's a very, very dangerous world that I hope that they don't succeed in creating.
Mosab Hassan Yousef, thank you very much for giving us your time today.
You're most welcome.